Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
And just informed consent. I think we're all fighting. We all come from different beliefs and backgrounds in different areas in nursing, but the one thing that remains true amongst all of us is informed consent, medical transparency, and freedom to choose. We want the right to be able to choose, to have sovereignty over our bodies, our children's bodies, and to do what we deem is what we feel is right. And we all have different, all of us nurses that are speaking up, we all have different views on what that looks like for each of us, but we're all kind of fighting for the same thing.
I'm Tamara Ugolini for Rebel News, and today I am joined with Kristen Nagel, who is a nurse outside of the GTA here in Canada. She has 14 years nursing experience, predominantly in the neonatal intensive care unit with a focus on pediatrics. Now, Kristen has been a dissenting voice to the mainstream COVID narrative and has faced reprimand from her place of employment because she may have a difference of opinion or something else to say in terms of what is accepted as mainstream. So Kristen has actually joined forces with 8 other nurses. They're called the Global Frontline Nurses. You can find their website, globalfrontlinenurses.com. And obviously, the initiative is global, but seems to predominantly be based in the U.S. with a lot of nurses from the United States really providing dissent and concern over what they see unfolding with the COVID narrative. So, Kristen, maybe we can just start there. How did you get involved with this initiative, and what are you hoping? What are the nurses and yourself hoping to achieve moving forward with this?
Well, back I want to say, I think it was around May, I watched Nurse Erin's undercover nurse expose that she did. And I don't know, I was so inspired by her bravery and her courage of what she did and all the information that she was bringing forward to change the narrative. And then Nicole Saratek was another one that her video went viral as well, speaking out against what she was seeing happening in the hospital. And it just was so contrary to what the media was telling us. So I was so inspired by these nurses. I started speaking out publicly more kind of this fall and November. And when my story went public, I reached out to these nurses, to Erin and Nicole, and we decided it was time that more of us band together that have gone public, that are speaking out, and to really bring truth to what we're seeing and what's happening. And from that, more nurses are coming in. We have some nurse practitioners. We have nurses that work in the ER, in the ICU, all over the States, some in Canada. And it is Global Frontline Nurses. And I know that we are hoping to get more nurses united globally. So hopefully, as more people see this coming out, more will feel brave and inspired to unite and speak with us.
And you've been in the mainstream. So there was, I think it was a CBC article that was posted featuring yourself. And so we see the constant vilification of anyone who speaks out against this narrative. And of course, you face reprimand, and we have many people who are facing job loss just simply for expressing a difference of opinion instead of engaging in that sort of discussion and allowing that debate to take place. It seems that individuals who speak out or denounce some of these measures are immediately vilified. And so are you finding that with the Global Frontline Nurses that there may be people who are hesitant to join or don't want to be featured, say, on the main page of the website?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's still a lot of nurses that want to remain anonymous. They want to protect their jobs. They don't want, yeah, it's because there is a lot of consequences that come with it, speaking publicly. So I know there's a lot within Canada, nurses that I'm talking to all over the place that want to do more and say more, but just they're not in position to do that at this time because it does usually, result in job loss and possible your license being threatened. And yeah, so it's a big risk and consequences that come into play. So we're hoping to change that. I know in the States their licenses are more protected. They kind of have more protection around that, and we're hoping. I'm working with another nurse in the GTA area that we're hoping to bring to law more protection for nurses, for whistleblowers that are like trying to bring out truth and seeing something that's wrong and make positive changes, because that's our oath, is to to do no harm.
Can you speak on anything? I mean, obviously, as an intensive care neonatal nurse, you have experience with critical care. Can you speak on anything that you have witnessed or seen in the hospital over the last several months in regards to COVID?
My unit's a little bit different. So I work in neonatal intensive care. So I work with premature babies. So with that, things that I've seen is just the measures, the restrictions on visiting. That's kind of been like a huge focus, I think, for us because, when you're going to have a baby. It's a very exciting time. It can be very scary, especially if it's your first time. If you're in high risk pregnancy, it's even scarier. And some of our mothers end up on the antenatal unit, and they're there for can be months at a time on bed rest. And with the restrictions in place, they're only allowed one support person. So that could be their husband or a mother, but if they pick one, so I know this happened recently, the mom who was pregnant didn't realize, I think she put her mom down as her support person, and the husband wasn't allowed to pass screening. So the husband wasn't allowed to come see her. And if they have children at home, the children are not allowed to see them. So that could be months that these families are separated and cannot connect and unite. And that's a devastating time. You're already stressed enough. It's already scary enough if you're in this high risk position, and it's just not a safe place for mom or baby. And then we were seeing dads are not allowed in the operating room if a C-section is taking place. So, there's about, seems like 10 staff sometime between the anesthetists, the doctors, the nurses, the OBs, and the fathers are not allowed in there. So the mothers are alone while they're going through this operation, about to give, birth to their babies. And there was one mom, and this could have happened more often, but one that I was aware of, went under general anesthetic. So that's she had to go under emergency C-section. So totally knocked out. And basically both parents missed the birth of their child because mom was out, dad not allowed in the room. And then at the bedside, again, only one support person is allowed at the bedside. I know we've gone back and forth on that rule depending on what wave of the restrictions we're in, but for a while it was only one person allowed at the bedside. So again, that could be, it usually was the mother at the bedside, especially if she was breastfeeding or expressing milk. So the dad would go a long time without seeing, his partner or his baby, and especially with the microprems that are in there for, can be up to 100 days. It can be a very long process.
And we won't know the health effects of such strict measures for months, maybe even years to come.
So we want our voice to be heard, and what better way than to come out united at a huge event in Washington, D.C., January 6th. We're on the Health and Freedom stage. We're going to be standing up with some pretty amazing people, Del Bigtree being one of them, so we're excited about that. So we're united, and our mission is to stand in truth and solidarity, to fulfill our calling and uphold our duty to do no harm, to advocate for ethically sound healthcare, to hold the lamp so that others may see our light and become empowered to stand for the same. We are nurses doing what's right and standing up for the truth. And so this is what we are uniting for and coming together. And this is what we'll be speaking up to shed light on what we're seeing with COVID and the harmful measures and restrictions that are taking place that are affecting society on a global level.
What would you like to see as a nurse, as a mom, some of these other nurses? I mean, where can we start to make this a more balanced approach to COVID?
I think definitely would like to start following more ethics over policy. I know it was brought up, Nazi nurses and doctors followed policy and not ethics. So I think that's a good place to start. There's and just informed consent. I think we're all fighting. We all come from different beliefs and backgrounds in different areas in nursing. But the one thing that remains true amongst all of us is informed consent, medical transparency, and freedom to choose. We want the right to be able to choose, to have sovereignty over our bodies, our children's bodies, and to do what we deem as what we feel is right. And we all have different, all of us nurses that are speaking up, we all have different views on what that looks like for each of us, but we're all kind of fighting for the same thing.
Right. And we've seen that there are many different views. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, those views just aren't being collectively heard and debated. So instead, we're following what seems to be one main narrative and one main plan of attack that is heavily based in lockdowns and segregation and division of families and society as a whole. So it definitely begs to reason that maybe we could benefit from having more of a broad discussion with other views and opinions. And that's part of what the summit I imagine will be about on January 6th. Can you give us a brief overview on what the speeches will look like, what that day, how that will unfold for the nurses?
I think there's going to be several speaking of what they're seeing happening in long-term care facilities that they had worked at, and what they're seeing there, what these measures were doing to the elderly, because it was quite devastating, because we're here to protect our elderly and we are actually causing a lot of harm. So there's going to be nurses speaking up on what they are seeing firsthand. There's going to be nurses speaking up what they're seeing in the ICUs, in ER, their experiences within hospitals, too, speaking from New York, from the epicenters of what they saw happening there with greed and negligence and even some malpractice. So we're going to be hearing actual frontline stories from like the thick of COVID, and as well as from nurse practitioners and what she wants to see for the future of her children, all children, and again, moving forward for, informed consent and choice and medical transparency.
Okay. And in the meantime, people can check you out at globalfrontlinenurses.com. Is there anywhere else that we can direct people to?
Right now, that's probably the best way. So, yep, globalfrontlinenurses.com. You can email us at info@globalfrontlinenurses.com if you want to be a part of this.
Yeah. Well, I wish you safe travels, and we'll be sure to tune in on January 6th for your summit in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining me, Kristen. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for Rebel News. I'm Tamara Ugolini. Does anyone else notice that positive PCR test cases have only gone up since the mask mandate came into effect months ago? If you think it's ridiculous that we're all wearing masks when clearly they're not working to stop a virus, then check out the hilarious swag we've designed at unmask.ca to order your Masks Are Useless virtue signaling device today.